Hey everyone, it's Drake back with Learn Logbait. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. Today's video, I want to be answering some of the most common questions I get about Logbait in my comment section and DMs. So we're going to be going over things like upgrade order, which evolutions you should get, whether I use Dark Goblin or Rocket, which tank should I use, and which building. I'm going to cover all of these things. By the way, all the content is going to be coming from me just talking. These are just games, some of my favorite games that I threw in, as well as some different variations of Logbait I'm playing. So yeah, just so I'm not, this isn't some sort of podcast, but yeah, I guess we can go right into it. For upgrade order, I would definitely say prioritize upgrading your Goblin Barrel first, and in that same light, prioritize upgrading your evolutions, whatever your evolutions are going to be. We're going to be talking about that next, but definitely upgrade your Goblin Barrel first because you need it to survive Zap. If your Goblin Barrel is underleveled, it'll die to a Zap that's one level higher, and you just can't be having that negative one elixir trade so much, because Zap definitely gets run a lot at lower levels because it's common. So yeah, the next upgrade you want to do is log, because you need to be able to kill other princesses, because princess really shreds Logbait if they're playing it well. So you'll almost always have a use for the log, unlike your building or I don't know, a rocket. If you use it, you're not going to be holding on to a log. Even if you're just cycling it, it's one of your cheapest cards. So it's definitely really good to have upgraded. Next, I would say, is the Goblin Gang. For the same reasons as the Goblin Barrel, you're going to need it to survive Zap. It's going to come up huge in situations where, let's say, they have a prince coming down the lane, you gang, they zap it, and those goblins surviving the zap are so important to surviving the interaction and getting as much value as possible against the prince. It's also, because zaps already kill spirit goblins pretty much no matter what, you need to be able to not have those negative one trades. Then I would say upgrade your knight or your tank. We'll talk about tanks later. It's your most important defensive card because it's your only tank in the deck, and yeah, I know it's 5th on the list or 6th depending on what your Evo is, but yeah, definitely super important. Then I would say upgrade your Ice Spirit, because you need it to be able to tank for your Evo Goblin Barrel, because it needs to be able to make it to the tower for you to do double lane Evo Goblin Barrel pushes. If you watch any of my videos or any Logbait video in general, you'll see that you can put an Ice Spirit down and then Evo Barrel for the decoy, and put the Ice Spirit on the decoy side, and it'll tank and freeze the tower while the dummy goblins that are 1 HP get as much damage as possible. Then I would say upgrade your building, just so you can there's a lot of interactions that are important against building targeting. Tanky win cons like Hog, Royal Giant, Balloon, I would say, are the big ones that having an underleveled building is gonna cause you problems, but I would say it's definitely lower priority compared to all the cards I just listed, because there's some matchups where you don't play your building nearly as much. Then I'd say upgrade your princess, because it's not really level dependent, just because I don't know, it's pretty squishy, so it's just gonna die to the spells that it dies to pretty much at any level. And then lastly, if you use your rocket, I would say upgrade your rocket last, because especially the way the game has evolved, you're not going to be using rocket nearly as much, but that's a whole different conversation whether you use Dark Goblin or rocket. So if you're using Dark Goblin, specifically Evolution Dark Goblin, definitely upgrade your Evolution first. So upgrade your Evo Goblin Barrel and upgrade your Evo Dark Goblin, because those are going to turn the tides of your game, and you want to maximize the value you get out of evolutions by having them upgraded. So speaking of evolutions, here are your options. You have Goblin Barrel, which is not really an option. You need it for dual lane pressure, otherwise you're not really playing Logbait. You're probably playing more a hyper bait with Skeleton Barrels, Suspicious Bush, Wall Breakers. That doesn't really count. It's that's not really what I'm talking about here. You have Cannon, you have Dark Goblin, Tesla, Ice Spirit, Valk, and Knight. So those are pretty much your options when it comes to running Logbait. So definitely upgrade your barrel. And if you don't want to run rocket, or if you do want to run rocket, then upgrade your Evo cannon. Again, we'll talk about buildings later, but Evo cannon does really well against recruits. It's super versatile. But yeah, we'll get into buildings later. Then upgrade your Dark Goblin. It's my personal favorite. Even after the nerf, Evo Dark Goblin is super versatile on defense and offense because Dark Goblin has so much range. You can just use it like to snipe things across the river. You'll see me doing that a lot if you watch any of my gameplay. We can talk about Tesla. It's free, but it's 1 elixir more and it shoots slower and it does less damage than Cannon. If you were playing like anytime, I think like around like August like 3rd or August 9th, or at some point you got Evo Tesla for free, so definitely like play it if you're free to play and you're like waiting on shards to upgrade your Evos. But generally there's like a lot of redundancy because the big draw with like Tesla over Cannon is that it can hit air troops, right? But like you're still gonna lose to like, well, you're definitely gonna like lose to recruits unless like you're just running an Evo Tesla and like timing it really well, because it's more expensive, and you're definitely losing a Royal Giant if you run like Tesla or Cannon no matter what. When I say definitely, I mean like if they're as good as you, like you're probably gonna lose. There's like it's really hard to outplay Royal Giant. But yeah, I kind of went on a tangent there, but let me know if that made sense. Tesla's really good against, like, it's good for like running against air, but Logbait already does pretty well against air to begin with. You just have a lot of options, especially if you run Dark Goblin. So I think Cannon is personally like better with Logbait than Tesla is. Then you can also get Evo Ice Spirit. It used to be way stronger. It got nerfed a bunch of times, but it's still really, really useful defensively. If you run, and then we can talk about Valk. If you run the Hypno Valk deck with no spell, I'm talking about this deck. For those of you who don't know, then you need Evo Valk. It's gonna be like, it's gonna carry you on defense. I can make a separate video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see the Hypno deck. And then your last option is Knight. Personally, I don't find it that strong because, let me explain. You're almost always going to be using Knight for its like cheap DPS plus tank combo, and like its Evo, like the only thing good about its Evo, it's like it soaks up damage, right? So it doesn't really work with Logbait, if that makes sense, because you need Knight to be like swinging, and when it's swinging, it like the evolution doesn't exist because it only soaks up damage when it's not attacking. So let me know if that made sense. Alright, now let's get into the next question. The big hitter. So what do I mean by like what big hitter you want in your deck? I really mean Dark Goblin versus Rocket. So here are the pros of Dark Goblin. You get way more like offensive utility and defensive, and it gives them another thing to spell on defense. Dark Goblin is considered like the modern like version of Logbait. It's like it can get its value back, and like the value you can get out of a Dark Goblin for just 3 elixir, it can be infinite compared to like Rocket, where like you're spending 6 elixir and like it's a one-time use and like you're done. Like you can't get any more value out of a Rocket, and people aren't exactly like lining up to like put all their troops in one place for you to get like maximum Rocket value. So yeah, but I would be remiss and like biased if I didn't mention the pros of Rocket. It's got that old school feel. It helps against things like Sparky and Empress. Empress is super annoying to deal with, and like Evil Witch has been making a comeback in this meta, so Rocket's definitely good for that. But otherwise, it's more obsolete. Dark Goblin and Rocket are just as easy to level up as each other, since they're both rares. You can definitely like run Dark Goblin and Rocket. You'd probably just have to drop like an Ice Spirit or Princess, and I personally feel like Ice Spirit and Princess are like 2 staples of Logbait that can like never go away. Ice Spirit is just so important for like, I don't know, like cycling faster, and Princess is like in matchups where you literally just can't break through. Princess chip damage is gonna be so important. It almost becomes your win condition in Logbait. So yeah, that's the breakdown between Dark Goblin and Rocket. As for which tank you should use, you basically have 4 options here, assuming we're not talking about like Prince / like Rascal Bait. You have Knight, Valk, Golden Knight, and Mighty Miner. Alright, so Knight is like, it's a common card, so it's like easiest to level up. It's the cheapest at 3 elixir, it's the most versatile, and it also hits faster than Valk. So when in doubt, just like run with Knight. It's the OG version, and like it's so easy to use. It's like a great starter pack. Here's the thing about Valk. It is tankier, but it's also 1 extra elixir every time you place it, and like that elixir definitely adds up. In most cases, like Valk can also hit 360, right? And Knight can't, but that splash ability with Valk doesn't actually get used that much, since it's the only tank in your deck, and you're only playing Valk in positions where you would also play the Knight. And I don't know if this makes sense, but like you would never Knight like a position where like it would be like a really good Valk, because Valk has that 360. But since like you can only play the Valk where you would play the Knight, because of just how like your deck is built with Logabait, that like 1 extra elixir usually isn't worth it. Also, like for defending big pushes, think about cycling 2 Valks versus 2 Knights. It's 8 elixir versus 6 elixir, and like 1 more elixir is like a free Dark Goblin if you just wait like 1 more elixir. So that's like the difference between cycling 2 Knights and 2 Valks when you're defending big pushes. Valk is pretty good against recruits though, especially Evo Valk. Now let's talk about champions. It's not going to apply to most of you guys because you guys don't have like your champions leveled up, which is totally fine. But if you really want to get fancy, I guess like with like the 3-card cycle, Golden Knight and Mighty Miner are both pretty good if you run Rocket, if you want to like be that Logate player who cycles Rockets and triple elixir. But the thing with Golden Knight is like you're basically paying 5 elixir for like a fancy Knight. It's not as versatile as Knight. It like definitely hits like slower. It's super hard to level up, and the problem with champions is you can't have 2 on the field at once. So if Golden Knight or Mighty Miner is your tank, you have to be really skilled in defending, because you can't cycle 2 of them. So what does that mean? Well, the point of a tank is to be immune to spells, right? But if you like if you can only have 1 tank on the field at a time, let's say like they throw something the other lane, and you have to use like your Goblin Gang to defend it. If they know that you don't have any other tanks, they're going to be useful against it. Like they're just going to spell off your Goblin Gang and you'll lose the game. So with Golden Knight and Mighty Miner both, you're basically paying 5 elixir. I know they're 4 elixir, but the ability is 1 elixir, and that's what really matters, because the ability is what makes like a champion special. Really think about how often are you going to be using that ability, you know? So yeah, I hope that made sense. Now the last topic is, which building should I use? Here you have 3 options. You have Inferno Tower, you have Cannon, and Tesla. Let's break it down. So Inferno Tower loses to recruits. It survives a Hog Earthquake push, but like Hog Earthquake is also a cycle deck, so it's really easy to outcycle your Inferno Tower. Inferno Tower also fries Mega Knight, and I know Mega Knight is so common in mid ladder. And Inferno Tower also just generally just does well against the beatdown meta, but Vines definitely changes that. Vines is such a broken card, I could make a separate video on that, but it's so annoying. Another pro about Inferno Tower is that it's like kind of a spell bait in itself. I mean, that's like what it was used for back in the day, why it was like part of OG Logbait, because like everyone was running Zap, and Zap countered Inferno Tower, so it kind of like baited out like a Zap. Zap isn't really that common anymore, but just keep that in mind. Like Inferno Tower is like technically another bait card. Cannon loses to Royal Giant, like pretty much like Royal Giant Monk, like it's gonna lose. Like I can literally link you a video of like Riley losing to Royal Giant Monk with a cannon, but cannon does so much better against like cycle decks like Drill, Wall Breakers, etc. Cycle has also been in a really bad spot in the meta, so just consider that, because of all the beatdown that's been going around. I touched on this before, but Tesla is like an okay middle ground. Your air defense is already strong, and Tesla also shoots slower than Cannon and does less damage, and it costs more. So going back to the Evo thing, unless you have Evo Tesla and you have like no other options, it's best to just stick with Cannon. So I just laid out like the pros and cons of pretty much every choice you're ever gonna have to make when building your log bait deck. But if you still have questions about kind of like what choices you should make with log bait, feel free to leave a comment. But please like watch the whole video and listen to it in its entirety before you ask, because I feel like I get like a lot of like similar questions, if that makes sense. But really the choices you make come down to like how aggressive do you like to be, or do you like to play more methodically and defend, and also like how good are you at defense, and also like what do you hate losing to the most. For example, if you hate losing to Expo, like pack a Rocket. Like Expo isn't really run that much, but I know every player is different and like can tilt at any given moment, depending on like what they're playing against. So yeah, I'm not gonna like try to like say like, oh, if you answer this, like okay, then go with this. But these are just some questions that you need to consider. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's kind of a different style, but let me know in the comments what you thought and what content you'd like to see next. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.